Game time.
Welcome to the Good Business Dufferin podcast, hosted by the Dufferin Board of Trade through our social enterprise, the Dufferin Biz Hub. Our podcast is based on our belief that small businesses have the power to drive positive change in our community. Our conversations with local experts will help your business thrive, and our talks with community leaders will inspire you to make a difference in Dufferin County. Whether you're looking to grow your business, strengthen our community, or hopefully both, we've got you covered.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Diana Morris, Executive Director of the Dufferin Board of Trade and the Dufferin Biz Hub. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by our guest, Neil Orford, founder of CanHist. Thanks for joining us, Neil. You had a very lengthy intro, and rather than me tell everyone about you, I'd love it if you could tell our audience about yourself and your passion for your industry.
Well, thanks, Diana. It's great to be here. I've been in Dufferin County about 40 years. And I've been a teacher here most of my adult life, at ODSS in Orangeville and at Centre Dufferin in Shelburne. And for the 31 and a half years I was a teacher, I concentrated on teaching. The thought of becoming an entrepreneur was not immediately apparent, but I was fortunate enough in teaching to have a lot of good experiences, great families, great kids, great schools in the community, and I was able to build sort of a profile for myself, which was national. When I chose to retire in 2017, 8 years ago almost, the direction I went in was to build CanHist. And thankfully, with the kind of partnerships and network that I've been able to build, it's been a very successful transition. Although it's really not a transition now, it's pretty well rooted from the education world into the business world, and that's where I still find myself really excited to be.
Awesome. What inspired you to take that leap from the classroom to the outdoor world?
The simple answer is to say I was retiring, but I think successful teachers are teachers that have a vision, and they understand their classrooms as marketplaces, and they see, to a certain extent, students as clients. So they're always marketing their subject. In my case, history is a program in Ontario which, students choose as an elective. So they have to want to take history. They have to want to experience heritage at that level and really get a grasp of what historical understanding is. Because they have math, they have science, they have the arts, they have phys ed, they have all the other choices that they can take. Beyond grade 10, they really have to want to take it. So as a teacher, you have to see yourself as a bit of a marketer to bring the kids to your programs. So I had that. I think I felt that very strongly when I was teaching. Fortunately, I was lucky enough to build several programs when I was in education that I developed that were experiential learning programs beyond the classroom. So I worked very closely with the Museum of Dufferin, at that time Dufferin County Museum and Archives. And several of the programs won awards, which was very nice. We got these national and provincial and local acknowledgments. And not too long before I retired, the representatives from the federal government were interested whether I was going to continue to do this in retirement. And if I was, would I be interested in building it into a business that could develop a national platform for some of the work that I've been doing in the classroom and bring the models that I've been working on with students to a national audience. And so that's really what gave me the inspiration.
That's fantastic. So you were actually sort of asked to start your own business, really, by the government.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because initially, I think particularly for people in the public sector like teachers, you don't immediately think of a business. You don't immediately think of entrepreneurship. I think what you think is that there's somebody else who's doing this, and maybe you can give them assistance. So it doesn't immediately occur to you that you are the one who can take the leadership on this. But certainly with the assistance of lots of really talented people in the heritage sector, I understood quite quickly that this could be a marketable business. The question was what shape it would take, who the audience was going to be, and whether there was enough space in the heritage sector for another player such as myself. The heritage sector in Canada is quite narrow, quite cutthroat and bloodthirsty in many respects. And of course, it operates largely on a national scale. So for me to take what we've been doing here in Dufferin County to a national, to scale it up to a national presence was going to take a long time. So I recognized very early on that this was going to be a patience game, and I'd have a lot of skills that I'd have to learn along the way to, bring it to a national presence.
So now tell us about CanHist. What is your target market? What shape is your organization?
Well, CanHist is, interestingly, is the parent company of a division that we call Defining Moments Canada. And Defining Moments Canada really largely is our public-facing operation. It's better known than CanHist is, but CanHist is the parent organization, the umbrella organization. CanHist is a for-profit public heritage and heritage education business, which does consulting. I do consulting with universities, with museums, with municipalities, certainly with schools and school boards a great deal, with individual teachers who have programs that they need assistance with, and then with some really rich public not-for-profits who are in a variety of different heritage and associated heritage fields as well. As far as the audience goes, I like to say that our audience is the Canadian public. I mean, we're very much what we do is a public service in the realm of what is known as public history. And public history is not well understood by the Canadian marketplace. I think because it's got the word history in it. It's not really understood. It's sort of seen to be maybe kind of a discrete thing over here that universities do. But when we think about, the work that municipalities do, doing commemorations, considering what parks are to be shaped like, this great experience we've had, and I say great in quotation marks, in Orangeville with what do we call a heritage neighborhood? And can you design that within, a very robust, very vibrant downtown community? There is a lot of space there for what public historians do in consulting with municipalities and helping them shape, better approaches to what public history is. So that's the market we're in. But I also do tours, and then CanHist has recently started this wonderful little thing called Small Town Big Ideas, which is a fascinating forum that we can talk about later on.
Sure. Under CanHist or the other brands, what programs do you offer?
Well, the heart and soul of the programs we offer are done through the Defining Moments Canada division. And we, generally speaking, take opportunities in sort of the grand calendar that we all live by for commemoration of certain anniversaries. And these are anniversaries which a lot of Canadians may immediately recognize. We had in this country Canada 150, and we certainly have come through experiences with like Vimy 100 and Battle of Vimy Bridge, acknowledgement of that. But then there are multiple anniversaries in Canadian history that don't get the kind of recognition or acknowledgement that from a public perspective that they probably should. So Defining Moments Canada through CanHist, we are under contract to the federal government to deliver national commemorations for very interesting, specific anniversaries that should matter to, hopefully matter to, all kinds of Canadians. So the 75th anniversary of D-Day, 100th anniversary of the Spanish flu, which actually happened before the pandemic that we just experienced. So it was
interesting timing.
It was a really interesting timing. A lot of 50th anniversaries that really matter. Some 75th anniversaries that seem to matter. So these are opportunities for Canadians to engage with their history. And because we are entirely digital, it's a very easy platform to build out for ourselves when we settle on what those anniversaries should be. So there's a lot of public consultation that we do to decide those. And then we work very closely with the federal government to develop them. And we work closely with universities, with school boards, with museums, with local heritage organizations, and these really terrific not-for-profits to to build out what the complexion of those programs are going to be. At the same time, as I said, we do these tours, and I'll just frame it this way, Diana. I think if I can be a little cavalier about it, Canadians traditionally are really bad at knowing their history and bad at celebrating and commemorating their history. When I was growing up, I came through a period where we tended to just knock down old buildings and replace them with sort of brutalist, constructions, because we saw them as a better, utilitarian purpose or whatever. And I think even in Orangeville, for instance, there's all kinds of opportunities that we had, that we lost, that we missed by taking out really, really fantastic infrastructure in favor of, new stuff.
Progress.
Yeah, which we couched as progress, but it didn't really necessarily settle very well with people. So one of the spirits that we undertake is to try and help small towns, communities understand that there is a heritage worth preserving, whether it's associated with a major national anniversary or not. There's a heritage that's worth preserving locally.
So you do that in the shape of creating a tour within a specific geographic area?
Well, the tours, what we do is a little surreptitious. We actually take Canadians to Europe, where they do this much better. And the idea is that heritage marketing as a tourist endeavor or as an arts-based endeavor is a really refined process. And in Europe, they have really developed this very, very well. Now, I think a lot of it has happened because, under threat of war and under threat of terrible, terrible, tragic circumstances, they've really had to fight to keep what was left. And they do it extremely well. And they have organizations like in England, they have the National Trust, that are really, national infrastructure banks that look after public heritage. And they're very well financed, very well resourced, and they hire good public historians and organizations like us to build out the educational profile and make the advocacy case for why these things are needed. And what it results in, of course, is an incredibly vibrant tourist experience. And so it's been beneficial for my business to take Canadians to Europe to show them how well it's done, with the kind of the surreptitious intent for them to come back and make the cases here, municipally, provincially, in some cases federally, that this is exactly what Canadians need to do. And we know that the arts in Canada, tourism in the arts, is actually dollar for dollar probably our greatest area of wealth in the country, far surpassing manufacturing and everything else. So there's a lot that we need to do, and we need to look at really good models for doing it. That's why we do the tours to Europe.
Fantastic. And you also do school programs.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about those?
Well, I'll take a step back just quickly. Right across Canada, I think there is a fundamental dissonance that exists between how people think about their history and how we're actually educated in our history. And one of the problems is, of course, that schools through provincial ministries and local school boards have been cutting history programs left, right, and center across the country in schools. We could have a whole podcast on why that is, but it is happening. And what it means is that young people and their families, largely get detached from their own heritage and their recognition of their own history. And there's not a lot of opportunities there to seek it out and to find it. So I do a lot of consulting with schools and with school boards and with museums and with community groups to try and build the capacity around public heritage and heritage education, either outside of or parallel to school programs, or directly working with organizations and schools as to how they can improve and design better models to really capture the students' imagination, hopefully build extra programming in the schools, get students to choose history as electives, and also train teachers to be a little more entrepreneurial in how they approach the marketing of their history programs. And we've had a lot of success with this. We work really closely with some schools and school boards. And we had a great program right here in Dufferin that ran for several years, that won all kinds of awards, is the model that I usually take and encourage other schools to adapt to.
What was that program?
It's called the Digital Historian Project. And Digital Historian Project was a partnership between the Upper Grand District School Board and the Museum of Dufferin, and Town of Shelburne, Town of Orangeville as well. And we took the kids out of schools for a full semester to root them in experiential learning around Canadian heritage and teach them the very discrete skills of research, of working in the archives and archival research, of doing really good evidence-based content creation, and learning that heritage fundamentally explains to us the stories that we tell ourselves. And I think where this dissonance I was talking about is that Canadians have forgotten that really who we are is based upon the stories that we tell ourselves. And if we don't have it in the schools the way we once had, and maybe social media is co-opting Sunday evenings with Nana and Grandpa and hearing the wisdom of the elders, and maybe too often we've turned to Hollywood to help us define what we think about ourselves. This is an opportunity through programs like Digital Historian to help young people shape the stories that we tell ourselves, to really, really grasp where we've come from, grasp where probably we are, and maybe hopefully put out some markers as to where we need to be. So that's the kind of work that we do with schools and school boards particularly.
It sounds amazing. I can imagine the students that participated, it would just change their lives completely. That sounds like an amazing program.
Yeah, we had great success with it. The Digital Historian Project won the Government of Canada Award, our History Award in 2015, and we've seen a lot of uptake in jurisdictions right across the country. Really innovating on the model that we created as technology advances. And I think we could talk a lot about AI and where that's going, but I think there's such remarkable potential for these kinds of experiential learning programs for schools that are ambitious and forward thinking and visioning to take students on that exciting journey beyond just math, English, phys ed.
Yeah. Fair enough. So right now you're also working on a project called Small Town Big Ideas.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
So we are, CanHist is rooted in Dufferin. I think we chose to situate the operation here as the center. Even though we're a national platform digitally, we're rooted in Dufferin County. It occurred to me, I think, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, sort of as we were rolling out of the pandemic that we're really not out of, but it feels like we're more out of it, that we needed to hear from some of Canada's top public intellectuals. Toronto and Calgary and Ottawa and Halifax are public intellectuals who are really some of the most forward-thinking visionaries in the country, go to big urban centers and they speak and they sell their books and they present. They never come to communities like Shelburne or Orangeville or Grand Valley. They never come to Dufferin County unless somebody asks them. And unless we can be assured that there's an audience to to appreciate what they have to say. And what's been astonishing as we started Small Town Big Ideas is that we found lots of Canadians that have big ideas that are really resonant for small towns, who can come and speak to our audiences about public housing, about equity issues, about heritage and heritage education, and Dufferin rolls out the red carpet and all kinds of people turn out to hear what these people have to say. And it occurred to me that we need forums for public discourse in Dufferin County. And we have great facilities like the Opera House in Orangeville, Grace Tipling Hall in Shelburne, and then lots of other facilities as well to welcome these people into our midst. And kind of in an era of enormous quantities of disinformation and misinformation on social media, it's really refreshing to give people an opportunity to listen to people that have done a lot of profound thinking, and have an opportunity for public discourse as well, which of course because we get so siloed, we don't generally speaking get anymore.
Sounds like excellent. I'd love to attend one of the upcoming speakers. It sounds just like something we need. Big ideas, sort of a TED Talk, but on a micro level in our community. I like that.
Yeah, it's very refreshing, and I think the audiences respond just as you say on that micro level to macro ideas. Yeah. So we have generally speaking, six events a year, and I'm really hoping that everybody will catch on and come and visit us.
I will definitely try to get to the next one. And other events that you have on the go, you're also bringing the Fugitives, the band, not a group of criminals, the band, the Fugitives, to Grace Tipling Hall. Can you tell us about that?
Well, under the rubric of Small Town Big Ideas, one of the things that I think is important is embracing the rich heritage that Dufferin County has in music and the arts. And, we have these great places like Grace Tipling Hall where we can feature acts like the Fugitives. And of course, historically, we had Rock Hill Park here that was so successful, and and Fiddleville that was so successful. We have now this great jazz and blues weekend in Orangeville. So it's not as if we don't have an audience for this. Specifically, though, groups like the Fugitives have taken it upon themselves to find stories in Canadian history to build their music around. And so several years ago, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of Vimy Ridge, which we understand, popularly is the moment when Canada was born. I think historically that's a little difficult to prove, but it's certainly understood popularly. And what Brendan McLeod and the guys in the group decided was there was some really fantastic music that came out of the First World War. Great songs that guys sang, as they headed off into battle, and tragically often never came back. And also there were these rich archives that we have in our museums, like the Museum of Dufferin, of letters home from fellows who went from Amaranth and Melanchthon and Orangeville to their families. And that those letters could become really rich troves to write lyrics. And so, 4 or 5 years ago, they designed a whole musical tribute to the Battle of Vimy Ridge, not seen through historians' eyes, but seen through the eyes of the men who fought there. All the songs are written on that basis. It's a terribly, terribly moving tribute. It's really, really deeply powerful, funny. Musically, it's folk, it's acoustic folk. So I think our audiences here at Dufferin are well attuned, pardon the pun, to that. And we just figured under Small Town Big Ideas, this was a big idea that our community could really enjoy.
Well, it sounds fantastic. It sounds like an excellent concert.
we're just running low on time here for the podcast today, but we will put all of your events, upcoming events, when you have the next speaker coming, for this concert and the other things you have, they'll be on our website, as well as a link to your website. But thank you so much. I think we need to have you come back and we can have a whole conversation more about AI and how that influences the heritage market and the other things that you're doing. Just amazing things. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you for tuning in. Please stay connected with the Board of Trade for more resources, events, and upcoming podcast episodes. And until next time, keep driving positive change, because good business is good for everyone.
Game time.